Hello, today we are going to be working and servicing this Mag21 fork. This is the 1993 version. Initially I'd thought that the fork was a Mag20 since it didn't have 21 written on it, but indeed, judging by the manuals I found online, it is a 93 Mag21. When I found the fork, it was completely unpumped, and I've actually managed to pump it up again. However, the fork is really stiff, so I think it definitely needs to be serviced. And thanks to the manual, we've got tons of information, so we should be able to at least get something done on this. The dust seal is really cracked. That's probably going to need to be replaced if we can find a replacement. First thing we need to do is take off, unscrew the dial, and then remove what I believe is called the air cap, and it's a number 19. Next thing we need to do is remove or pry up these duster seals right here. You can remove this, the crown, and actually unbolt these as well. For now, I'm going to just leave it assembled together. Just easier for me to put away for whilst I source some new seals, which I might need to get. So for this, I would just suggest to just get a knife. It says in the manual to get like a screwdriver, but I'd say for initially to lift it up, use a knife. Now we've got some circlips to remove. It looks like one of them though is in an annoying position, and so I'm going to have to undo something. I'm probably going to have to remove the brace. The next part is removing the lower legs. Now it's recommended normally that you have a seal puller, extremely rare tool. I think I've seen it on sale once. The other method you can use to remove these is to pump it up, and with the pressure it will release the lower leg. Now when you're going to do this, you're going to need to be reaching about 10.5 bars, so it's quite a lot of pressure. I recommend that you put this on the floor. You're going to need to screw the top cap back on. Really do need a socket set. And it's off. Now you understand, I think, why you should take precaution when removing these with that method. Now that we've done that, let's see what else we can continue removing. I think the first thing underneath here, there's a clip, so let's take that off. Finally reaching the oil seal. There's a circlip right here to take off. Now you'll see right here, that's the other tip of the adjuster rod. To take that off, you remove this cap. Now earlier on I did measure it. I tried to put a socket on it. Apparently it's not a number 7 or 8, so it's not maybe metric. I have no idea. Anyway, to unscrew it, you just take off the air cap, and now we'll be able to remove that. On the adjuster rods, there's these parts here that you can remove. I'll say that's a bit of an optional part if you really want to remove that. We'll do it anyway. For my own reference as well, I'm going to just put that all in order. So you had that circlip, and then we have two type of rings, spacers. We've then got a spring. It's fairly stuck on this this kind of bushing, and then we have this plastic ring underneath. Another optional part that can be removed. There is a tool, it looks like on the Sutherland manual, with 2 little pins that go into here. So I think it's undoing itself from there, where the threading is going to go in. I don't really see the point of removing it, at least for me. I have tried and it's fairly tight, and I don't have a very big pin kind of spanner to be able to have a lot of leverage and maybe break it and open it up. Right, well, I'm going to give everything a clean. I didn't really need to actually access the bottom part of the fork, so I just did that for the video. There was no leaks that I could tell, but at least it's going to enable us to really give it a good clean. The only thing really that I maybe need to replace is the dust wipers that are cracked, but in fairness it's only on the top, and I don't really know if that's very important. In terms of, I don't think it really holds any air. I think it's just purely to keep the stanchions clean. I do know you can get them fairly easily. Anyway, I'm going to clean everything up, and I'm going to measure the seals to confirm what people say on a couple of internet forums regarding the size. Everything's been more or less clean now, so we can move on with assembling the fork and re-adding new oil. Regarding these oil seals, you can still find these online. It's measured internal diameter 25.4, exterior 35, and thickness 7. As for the wiper seals, there I have not been able to find a replacement. It seems that what you would do is just get rid of the wiper seal and just put new oil seals if you need them. Here you can just about see it's written BR4741E if anyone's interested. On the leg, you're going to put a very, very thin amount of oil. First thing we're going to put is the oil seal. That's followed by a very thin metallic washer, and then finally you have a rubber O-ring that sits underneath. Next, we're going to have 3 bushings, 2 metallic ones and a larger, longer plastic one. Now the metallic ones are stamped 9206. In the 94 Mag21 version, one of those bushings was larger than the other one. On this one, I've measured them. It appears to be exactly the same, so there's no worries about mixing them up. After that, you're going to have a bushing with a kind of like a small edge that's going upwards. Once you put that on, you're going to have a plastic ring, the larger diameters going upwards as well, And then finally you're going to have the spring. We can now finally install the snap ring, so get your plier ready to do that. Now let's get the adjuster rod prepared. In order, we're going to have a plastic ring that goes first. Then have the spring with a type of bushing beveled part. Insert that. Finally, you're going to have two of these metallic spacers, two of them. And I'm going to bend that snap ring just a little bit so that it properly stays in place as it's been bent out of shape. You can now slide the adjuster rod back into the leg fork. So I'm using the air valve cap to screw that in, as you want to screw that into the bottom to be able to put the circlip. So now we're going to put the circlip, the tiny one here, the C-clip. I just noticed that this hadn't been properly seated. It just clicked when I moved a little bit. Now it is though, so you'll be able to check yours now. You can now remove the top cap again, in preference using a socket and not a wrench like I did before, or a very thin wrench, but basically you don't want to turn this at the same time because obviously it's undoing this at the bottom. You now want to remove the leg. You could have done this before, it's just for me it was better for the camera to film it. Yeah, I just wanted to say at the bottom of these there's a plastic bumper, and when I was working on the 94 Mag21 it actually came out, so if your ones come out you need to put them back in. I'm going to try now and slide these bushings in. I'm hoping that they just kind of go in like on the last ones pretty much. What else I had to say? Yeah, so I'm going to try and get them in. Otherwise, you need some plastic tubing of a similar size that's going to be able to go over these, and then you can kind of whack them in. You don't want to crush this sill, for example, so you'd have to do that separately in preference. That's good so far. Let's see if we can. You know what? That bushing hasn't fully seated. I thought it did. So I'm using a 1-inch part from a headset, and I'm going to fit that on top, and then I'm going to just bash it in with the crown race setter. So now we just got the sills to knock into place, and I'm going to be using a race setter tool to do it with a spacer, or rather a headset spacer. This is a 1/8. It seems to fit over the sill where it won't damage it too much, and it's not too large, so it fits into the actual lower tubes, and at the same time should be able to seat it in. I'm going to put a tiny bit of Teflon grease around that sill. So now I'm going to put the 1/8 spacer, and I'm going to start tapping down. You want to make sure that it's all the way down to the point where there's that ridge where the snap ring is going to go, because you want obviously the snap ring to seat properly in place, as the snap ring has the function obviously of kind of holding the oil sill down, I guess. You might want to push around the snap ring. You really do want that seated in. For the wiper seal, I've put some grease around on the exterior especially to help it slide in better. You can now install the tube back on. You'll notice that you need to leave roughly 3 millimeters of tube that protrudes the crown. I think it's protrude the word. That goes above the crown of the fork. I need to now repeat the same process on the other leg, clean it up, and once we've done that we can add on the oil. I would love to have access to the dial here and clean underneath it. Unfortunately the circlip is so deep into this this kind of barrel shape, none of my tools actually fit all the way down into there. I highly recommend putting degreaser in both of these tubes, especially since, for example, this one was probably sitting for a very long time and all the residues fallen down to the bottom, and there's parts here that we don't even really have access to where most of this is going. And obviously when you're going to put the oil back in, it's going to foul the oil, so don't just rub it with a cloth like I've seen other people doing. Before we add on the oil, you need to make sure that the legs are fully compressed all the way to the top. For the oil, you're going to need generally between 5 and 8 WT, and I recommend you go on the internet and look up one of the manuals, and it's actually going to give you a chart with all the different options, but generally you're going to be putting an oil height of roughly 40 to 45 millimeters, and you measure the oil height by the spacing where the oil is not, so from the top of the oil to the top of the tube right here. I'm going to be using a ruler to be able to measure it roughly, so I'm going to kind of aim for that, like 43 millimeters for example. We're going to put the top cap back on now and see how everything is. Let's put the brace back on. Now the original one had silver screws, I believe. Unfortunately I couldn't find exactly the same one to put back on there, so it'll have to be the black one that was on there previously. I believe you can put thread locker on these on the threading here. I'm just not doing it. Right, well it's test them out. I'm going to pump up some air. Generally it's between 2.5 and 3.5 bars. I can't remember what that is in PSI. But I mean, it's a bit of a personal thing, a personal choice, depending on your weight. So you'll need to look on the chart and check which one you're going to go for. I actually can't find my suspension pumps. I'm going to have to use a regular one. I'm just going to go for a 2.5 and see what that says. I get to use my new vessel screwdriver. I recently splurged out on some new tools. Noticed to be a socket set because I was really missing one. And we can screw these little screws back into the dial. There's a possibility I've mixed these up. I didn't check on that. Let's have a feel. Obviously, we'll really know whether these are leaking and how well they work once they're actually installed on a bike. They feel really good compared to how they felt initially before I serviced them, so I'm quite happy. I've actually turned around the dials as well, and they're going harder when you're putting it on harder, etc. So it looks like that's all working. That's good. I don't see any leaks for the moment. We'll find out anyway, because I'm going to leave it for a few days and see if any air comes out. So I think that's everything done for this. Hope this helped you service your Mag21 fork, and until next time, peace out.